this hour, we continue to give you the very latest coming out of Zimbabwe, as Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has blamed dark forces, a divisive opposition and Western sanctions for the ongoing crisis in his country. He says government was intent on bringing about reforms and restructure and on rebuilding and improving the lives of Zimbabweans. He's also called on citizens to stand united. Zimbabwe is enduring its worst economic crisis in over a decade, characterized by hyperinflation and human rights violations.
Let us all unite, working together towards a common goal and dealing with each other in honesty and love. Spectrum. Accountability and transparency will keep on being enforced in every facet of our society. These values are, after all, the DNA. Our political reforms have equally been guided in the spirit of these ideals. The new legislation, the Maintenance of Order and Peace Act, MOPA, was created after enhancing cooperation with friends and partners in the international community as we entrench democracy and the rule of law within our jurisdiction. In this regard, we will continue to strive on the one hand and protecting civil liberties and individual rights on the other. In all circumstances, public officials and the security services will carry out their life is paramount, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and machinations by destructive terrorist opposition groupings to tame the economic turbulence we face. We commend international financial partners who continue created across all economic sectors. The development agenda we began is taking shape in line with Vision 2030 and incorporates the youth and marginalized is ongoing through to empowering entrepreneurs as well as unleashing the creative potential of the private sector, and SMEs are bearing fruit. Corruption in all that we do, through persistence and hard work, we will achieve a sustainable and a prosperous future for all. Zimbabwe has to get back to working it to ourselves and to future generations to succeed. Fellow Zimbabweans, the dark forces both inside and outside our borders have tampered with our growth and prosperity for too long. They have tried patriotism, hard work, transparency, accountability, love, unity, and peace. Now is the time to embrace the opportunities before us with optimism and determination to transform and modernize our way is closed. To be productive, to grow our economy, and never to tear our motherland apart by dividing its people. In unison, we must proclaim that from any form of attack. As your president, I vow to continue working harder in the work society of hope and not despair, of inspiration instead of desperation, unity in peace of disunity, drawing inspiration from our departed brave heroes and heroines. Let us pursue with renewed fortitude and zeal the journey we began of reforming and rebuilding our motherland. Emboldened by and the freedoms we enjoy today, let Zimbabwe strive towards a prosperous future. Now is the time to look forward as one people, a united people. Let us praise unity and love. Nothing is impossible. Forward ever, backwards never. God bless you all. God bless Zimbabwe. I thank you.
Right, joining us now to get some feedback on President Emmerson Mnangagwa's speech there is our reporter Tumaole Mohlaoli, who is with us in studio, and we'll also be speaking to Magwedze, who's out at the Beitbridge border post monitoring developments, as well as Mbali Thethani, who is at the Zimbabwean embassy, breaking down the story in all its elements. But first, let's start here. Tumaole, as I listen to Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa speak, I heard dark forces, I heard talks of opposition terrorist groups, and as he was speaking, the reaction on Twitter is massive. What did you make of what he had to say?
Well, a very interesting speech indeed, but I think it is definitely one that is within line with what the Zimbabwean regime, in terms of the government under ZANU-PF, has been towing for the longest while. Whenever there is issues of protest, issues of civil society trying to stand up to raise concerns over the dire economic situation in Zimbabwe, as well as protesting the lack of political freedoms and clampdowns on criticisms against government and exposés, as we know, with journalist Hopewell Shinono basically being accused of being an agent and working with these dark forces or international forces to try and derail Zimbabwe's development agenda. So we see here that Mnangagwa is basically putting, in terms of contextualizing how he sees opposition politics and trying to spin it in a way, because he was seen as the man to drive Zimbabwe forward. And of course, linking very importantly to the issue of international investment and development and developing the youth. So in line with criticizing those who are criticizing the ZANU-PF regime, he also reaches out and says, but we are looking to develop especially the youth and to try and grow our economy and attract investment.
As he speaks about the youth of Zimbabwe, which many are not in Zimbabwe, they're in different countries and watching and commenting on social media as they hear their president speak, also looking at the economy and the state of affairs in Zimbabwe, especially as we see hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans crossing into South Africa to buy basic essential goods like food and other supplies. Where does that leave the Zimbabweans' patriotism and sense of hope when it comes to their leader, who's now going for another term?
Well, in terms of where it leaves them, I think many Zimbabweans would be looking very closely and very carefully at Mnangagwa's appeal for foreign financial aid, foreign financial direct investment. Now, we know that Zimbabwe has in the past, under the previous regime of Robert Mugabe, been very critical, particularly of the West and international monetary organizations like the IMF, saying that they were basically trying to destabilize Zimbabwe and enforce regime change. Mugabe's administration took help from the East, turned towards countries like China, who invested in Zimbabwe, saying that they think that the East is the way to go in terms of pushing forward Zimbabwe's development agenda, if I can put it like that. So in this regard, we see that Mnangagwa is looking at the dire economic situation and realizing that something needs to be done. However, he has put a stern warning to international organizations to say that if you come to invest in Zimbabwe and help us overcome these dire economic times, it does not mean that you will dictate to us in terms of how we run our country politically. So this was a very important distinction that I picked up from that address.
Absolutely. I mean, it almost feels like the head is chasing the tail. In terms of a way forward, is this speech enough inspiration for the people of Zimbabwe. But for us to really expand on this, I want us to go to our reporter Mbali Thethani, who's at the Zimbabwean embassy. Mbali, a very good morning to you. The EFF has sent out a very strong warning when it comes to the Zimbabwean embassy, and the Zimbabwean government hasn't responded too well.
Well, that's right, Paul. The tensions in Zimbabwe just continues to make headlines. And of course, we've seen that press alert from the EFF. And of course, this basically stems off the violence that we continue to see. These are visuals we continue to see coming out from that country, be it photographs, just talking about the police brutality there in that country. Of course, Paul, we are outside the embassy of Zimbabwe. It is here in Pretoria, and as you can see here, the gates are closed, and there is this note outside just saying that it is closed. They are now opting for rather to phone in, and they are working remotely because of COVID-19, and they'll only be opening their doors on Thursday. But we continue to try and give viewers this rolling coverage of this headline story. But just joining us now, Paul, we are joined by a young lady. She is from Zimbabwe, and she's also been monitoring what's been happening in her country. Just talking to you a bit earlier on, we've been talking about the scenes coming out of Zimbabwe, the photographs, the videos, seeing the police brutality. How does this all make you feel?
It's a very sad situation. It is very sad because those who are supposed to protect us, they are killing us. So we don't know where do we go, where do we hide.
Do you know anybody in your family who has been affected?
No, not anyone at the moment, because my family, they live in villages, so there's no one in town yet.
You were also talking about how you belong to the Ndebele tribe, and for you, seeing such visuals coming out of your country is certainly nothing new for you.
Most definitely it's nothing new, because we have known it all our lives. Our parents met it when they were young, and we grow up into it. So, but still, we still cry for freedom for our people.
We've also been seeing a number of Zimbabweans making their way across the border. These are reports coming out from the Musina border. When you look at that situation, you have come into this country as well, and I believe you've been working here for quite some time. If you can just take us back, did such tensions in your country prompt you to come into South Africa and look for a job here?
Yes, because all of us, we need a better life. So if you're not given a job at your home, what do? You try and ask the neighbor to give you a little bit of food. But so because of the situation, all of us, we had to run to this side, crossing rivers with no papers, because the paper is not given to you, or you don't have the money to go apply for the paper. So it is a difficult situation, especially if your family is not from a wealthy family. So you have to do whatever it takes to try and provide for your family.
Right. Thank you very much, then, Paul. It is a young lady who does not want us to name her on camera because she does fear for any victimization, because we know that this is a very sensitive story. We know that those who have spoken out, those who have called on for protests in that country, they have in some sort of way been victimized, and we can see with these stories and these reports coming out from that country, people being brutally attacked by the police. A young woman there just saying that, you know, the situation in that country forced her a while ago to take that decision to decide to leave her home and to seek refuge in this country and try and make some sort of income, because we know that at the center of these protests is the issues around corruption. It is corruption during the times of COVID, related to COVID. It's as well as a very weak economy. We know that the Zimbabwean economy has been struggling for quite some time. There are no jobs. We've seen those who work in the healthcare sector just highlighting the various problems when it comes to jobs in that healthcare sector. People talking about there's no relevant PPEs as well for those in the healthcare sector to be able to do their jobs in a proper way, Paul.
Right, Mbali, let's leave it there for now.